Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, and thank you for joining me again here on Fearless Females. I'm so excited to have you guys come back. So I've been trying to grow my audience here, and the thing that I keep telling people is I want to grow my audience because I really think these stories are important. I think the message that these women share is so needed, and if you hear it over and over again from several different viewpoints, it kind of comes to resonate in you, and you feel like, oh, that's what she's saying. I can use that in my life in this way. Or, wow, she is really cool and she's done some really neat things. So if this message, if one of the podcasts has really struck a chord with you, if you've thought about it during the week, if it's something that you've added into your day because of something one of my guests said, let her know by sharing that. Share it with somebody who you think might need that message, or with somebody who is struggling in that area. And maybe they just need to hear it the way that my guest said it. And if you like, subscribe, share those messages with women in your life, then it can't help but help the movement get bigger, so that these stories, these gems, these nuggets of information that women are sharing with us, they're doing these incredible things in their everyday life. They're getting seen and heard by more people, and the people that actually need to hear and see them. So if you take a minute, if there's a particular episode or podcast that has really resonated with you, really struck you, share that with somebody. So today my guest is Sarah, and what I love about our interview is, one thing that just had me laughing. She said something like her worst advice is you have to spend money to make money. She's like, don't spend money when you don't have money. And as a financial advisor, it just cracked me up. And I'm like, can I put that on some sort of a plaque somewhere and hang it up? Because that's kind of what I feel like. If you don't have the money, don't spend the money. But I think that the thing that I took away from this podcast the most is when she said, there's magic in all of it, but if you're pretending to be somebody else, you're going to attract the wrong people. And authenticity and being who you are and showing up with real honesty and integrity and just your presence. I mean, I'm not a professional podcaster, and I don't know some days if I'm even doing a great job at this. But what I do know, you get me honestly. You get who I am. I show up at 100% because I believe in these women. I show up in my day job at 100% because I believe in empowering women in their financial future. So the idea that there's magic in being who you really are, not pretending to be someone that you aren't. And I hope that you guys, that hits you and really allows you to show up authentically you in the different spaces that you have to show up in your life. So let's get started with Sarah. So today we're talking with Sarah Hubbard. She is the author of The Intentional Networker and Senior Residential Mortgage Loan Officer. And I've had a chance to chat with Sarah over the last little while. You're going to just love this interview. She's so much fun, and she just is so relatable. I feel, Sarah, like we've been friends for such a long time, and we barely met each other, but we just have that connection.
I completely agree. I remember the first time I met you, I was like, she's my people. And you get that vibe sometimes. Sometimes you don't, and that takes a little while, but you and I definitely have that instant connection. I agree.
Yeah, definitely click. So my first question is always the same. I love it. I am a reader. Any and all suggestions welcome. What is your favorite book?
We're talking fiction, nonfiction.
Oh, this I know exactly. I had people say this is the hardest question. Like I can't narrow it down to one. Like, give me your top one, two.
I'm like, I'll give you top 1, 2 of nonfiction and fiction. So for nonfiction, I have been a huge fan of 10x is better than 2x.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's kind of everybody, that reads it's like, yes, but there's something about being a solopreneur for a long time and working so hard in and on your business, and you want control over everything and realizing that you are the bottleneck. And if you want to succeed and go farther, you have to think bigger. And that was just like one of those things where you're like, yeah, that like makes sense, but like conceptually with the examples that he gives in that book, love it. And then I'm a huge Sarah J. Maas fan. I mean, you give me any one of her books of a fiction and I could crush it. I just think she's the best writer.
Oh, that's so great. That gives me a good beach read, which is probably the next time I get caught up with my my stack of reading. It'll probably be beach season by then.
I agree.
So tell me a little bit about your journey, Sarah. Like, how did you get started? How did you get to where you're at now? Did you always know what you wanted to be? Like, what do you do? That sort of thing. Just tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah. So my story is far from linear, far from like, this is exactly what I thought I was supposed to be doing. I was an athlete all the way through college. I played softball. And throughout my journey of being an athlete, I got hurt a lot. And I saw physical therapists, and they helped heal not only my physical body, but also that mental component as well. When you're struggling and you're hurt and you're not able to do all the things that you normally can do, there's a special type of person out there that can heal you along that journey. And so I thought that that's for sure what I was going to be when I grew up. So I went to college for it. I was working full time in that field. And then about 16 years ago, I was applying for physical therapy school. They're very competitive programs. And at this point in time, I was living on the East Coast. There's usually somewhere between 35 to 50 kids per program that were accepted in. And I was rejected from like all 12 schools. And I had a 3.9 GPA, working full time in the field, like 120 plus hours volunteering and all these different things, amazing recommendations. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I remember going back to some of those schools and being like, tell me what I can improve. And they were like, we just need your GPA to be a 4.0 or higher. So you need to go back and retake some of those classes that like bio 1, chem. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that successfully. So I came out to Colorado for my cousin's high school graduation, met my now bosses, who had come up to me at his party and were like, you should come interview at our mortgage company. And I just laughed in their faces. I was like, I don't know anything about mortgages. I can heal your body. I don't know anything about that. They're like, well, we think you'd be really great. What do you have to lose? I did. Pretty much hired on the spot. And I moved out here 3 weeks later and just immersed myself into something brand new. I had no idea if I was going to like it or not. But I knew kind of where I was at like a complete standstill without me going back and spending more time kind of re-spinning my wheels. And I didn't love college all that much. I'll be honest with you. I am like an avid learner now, like as an adult and as seasoned somebody in my career. I love reading. I love learning. But the college style of learning, not for me.
Yeah.
It's just not my jam. So that's kind of how I got into this. I started off kind of on the back end side of things, on the mortgage side, went into the sales side about 12, 13 years ago. And sales side is to the like origination side where I start and I educate and then I pass that off to my processing team. And through that journey, I have come and grown my entire business through networking. I tried not to do it. My company was not really big on networking. They actually thought I was crazy. They still think I'm quite crazy. Their exact words to me are, "We'd rather flip burgers at McDonald's than do what you do." And I'm like, well, that's pretty intense like accusation there. Yeah. But from this journey of networking, not only getting clients that way, but also referral partners, and then just broadening my circle of people that I know that are exceptional at their craft and also exceptional people. Like we talked about that instant connection for you and me. Sometimes people don't have that right away. That's okay. It takes time. Not everybody is that open or ability to share. But for me, that is something I love about people. I'm curious about them. I love their journeys. And from there, I have started to coach and teach my fellow business owners of how to actually go out and network and enjoy it and make money from it. Not just
Mhm.
do it because we think we should be doing it or so-and-so's doing it. So, I want to get my name out in the community. Yes, those are all very important things, but there has to be, I'm going to call it strategery, if you may. Not really a real word, but I like that word.
Yeah.
There's got to be a plan. There's got to be intention. There's got to be a reason why you're doing it. Because if there's not, and you're just willy-nillying it, unfortunately, it's just going to take far longer. And all those frustrations that you hear about, I'm not good at it, or I'm too introverted, or I'm this, or I'm that, networking just doesn't work. It's probably
Yeah.
because there's no plan or intention in place.
Yeah. And I love that because I've said all those things that you just said. Like networking. I've decided that I'm like, I can't stand networking. I love meeting people. I love talking to them. I love connecting. I love hearing about what they do. And you're like, Lorie, that's networking. And I'm like, but I don't like networking. I like all those other things.
Well, it's funny. I think that it gets a bad name or connotation because there's a lot of groups out there, and I know you and I have talked about this, that you go and you don't necessarily feel that really good vibe when you're there. It kind of just feels like take, one-sided, and then out the door you go and you're like, I'm not even sure what just happened there. And this is just part of dynamics of groups. This is nothing that Lorie has control over or Sarah has control over. It's kind of like dating, which is a really unattractive thing to say because I can say I loved my dating scene when I moved out here. I didn't meet my husband for quite some time until I moved out here. But you have to try, you have to dabble a little bit and find the right group of people that are either at the same level of you or farther along in their journey, and the right people that are willing to share that journey. That's the huge key about it. If they are closed off, holding everything super tight, to me, it's just a red flag. I have a huge abundant mindset where, Lorie, the financial advisor over here, is going to do and another financial advisor over here are doing the same exact thing in regards to helping somebody plan for their financial future. But it doesn't mean you guys are doing it the same way. And one way that you're executing and having success over here doesn't mean that that person's going to execute it the same over there. But if you can share something and it works and then you have momentum growing in your business, I mean, that's the beauty and the magic of all of it, to be completely honest with you. And that's the part that really jazzes me up. I'm sure you have in your journey met many mortgage professionals along the way. We are not few and far between. We are all over the place, along with realtors, your career, insurance agents. There's a lot of industries that tend to get inundated with people. And I get this question a lot. They're like, well, how do you go in and, not feel threatened or not feel like that person is taking your spot? And I'm like, well, first I want to see if they're a good resource for me, because while I'm dynamic, it can do a lot of things. There's some states I'm not licensed in. There's some one-off programs that I may not have. And if they have it and I can pass that person off to know that they're in incredible hands, yeah. I want to do that. But then I also come across people that are like, I closed this many loans and I did this and I did that. And it's almost like a badge of honor. And I'm like, that's a no for me.
Yeah.
But, I feel like if we can collaborate a little bit and share what's working, what I tried, what I didn't work, tell me how you did that, and use each other, I mean, you'll have far more growth so much faster in your business and in networking when you're able to share those types of things.
Mm-hmm. And networking is so important. I mean, I've heard it over and over on this show. I've heard from so many different people, like grow your network, keep your network, make sure that you're nurturing your network. And all of those things take deliberate intent to do those.
They do. I mean, if you don't have a plan or systems, which we'll get into a little bit in my book, I kind of break out a framework that I think is really simple but easy to execute, and it interweaves some AI in there to help you, just do it a little bit easier and not spend so much time to do all of that. It will make it so much more enjoyable, and then your name will stay so much more top of mind. In my book, one of the examples I give in the introduction is, think of networking. One, networking has the word work in the word, right? Just like we do continuing education for our jobs, we're constantly learning new products, all of these things. Networking itself also takes time to finesse and figure out and work through it. So you constantly have to be working at it. But also, you have to think of it as when somebody's out and about, and like imagine they have like a camera on their shoulder, and whether they're talking to neighbors or other professionals or wherever they're spending their time that day, that month, that year, and if something came up about what you do and you're not the first person that that person is telling, oh, hey, I know this person, you might not be doing that great of a job explaining exactly what you do, or
Mm-hmm.
staying on top of a reminder, whether it's personal reach out, whether it's on an automated email drip, whether it's coffee, drinks, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be strategic about it. You can't just I can't have 50 one-on-ones a week. I'd love to. I love humans, but I
Yeah.
can't do it with my time. I actually have to do money making activities just like you do.
Uh-huh.
So we have to be intentional about how we break up those people, how they can technically fuel our business, and how do they make you feel. And that's how that much time they get when you go. And I go into that in a little bit more detail later.
Mm. So tell me a little bit, Sarah, about the best investment you've made in yourself. Is there something that you've done where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just so glad I did that. I just wouldn't be where I'm at today without it.
This was a harder question for me than the book question.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I would say the best investment that I ever made was the fall of putting myself into a tremendous amount of debt and then pulling myself out of it. So, in the beginning, when I switched over to being a loan officer, the way that my company grew business was sending direct mailers only. It sounds a little like crazy that you would just spend money, send a mailer, and hope that somebody calls you. But for those gentlemen at my company, they've been doing it for almost 30 years, have built very large databases with it, and it has worked for them. So when I came into it, I was like, okay, that's what I'll do because that's all I knew. And I was about $60,000 in debt in 4 to 5 months in, and I was miserable. And I remember going to a conference. So I'd probably say this conference. It was probably like a $1,200 to $1,500 investment at the time. And I remember going to this conference and I'm sitting in a room with all of these other mortgage professionals. And of course, they're trying to sell and they're giving us, market updates and all of these things like that. But I remember going up to a coach after and I just was like, here's kind of what's going on. Here's where I'm at. I don't know if this is for me. What's your biggest, recipe for success in this business? And she's like, just do what you say you're going to do. And I was like, there's no way it's that simple. Her name is Cindy. I'm like, there's no way, Cindy, that it's that simple. She's like, I promise you it is. And so I came home and I just started honoring that. If I said I was going to make a connection for Lorie, I did it. If I said I was going to show up somewhere, I did. If I wasn't able to show up somewhere, I'd let somebody know that I couldn't be there because that also builds credibility and trust. And slowly but surely, after about a year and a half, I pulled myself out of all of that debt because it's all sitting on credit cards. I also don't function super well under debt, so that was not great. But pulled myself out, and I would say that conference was a really huge eye opener for me because while I met some amazing coaches there, I didn't necessarily invest in their coaching programs, but I met a ton of other loan officers that were growing their business through networking and picked their brains about how they did it and what are they saying. And a lot of them happened to be from Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And that just happened to be the group of ladies that I sat with, ironically enough. And then now, like last year, at the end of last year, I went and presented to their Mortgage Professional Association, my first paid speaking gig about networking to them. And that connection just got nurtured and nurtured and nurtured. So if I wouldn't have spent that money, while it doesn't seem like a lot, if I wouldn't have spent that money and pushed outside of what my company said was the right thing to do, I would have never been to where I am today, publishing a book, running my own networking group, and helping other professionals feel good about networking.
Yeah, I think that's so important that sometimes you don't do things the way that other people do them. Like, and especially I feel like maybe this is just my experience, but in a male-dominated profession, a lot of times I don't react the same way they do. I don't sell the same way they do. I just don't. I'm not the same. So the things that have worked for them may not necessarily work for me.
It's very blatant even to this day. Okay, I'm the only female originator at my company that produces. We have a couple that hold a license, but they do it for more compliance reasons. They're not out there trying to get clients. And even when I sit in my weekly loan officer meetings to this day, I will say something and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds really great, but we're just going to go back and do this over here. And you're just like, okay, well, this suggestion still stands. If anybody wants to take me up on coming to this event or sending out this email or doing any of this, like, I'm here, I'm going to still explore it, but you are correct. There's sometimes a beautiful yin and yang with men and women's brains, but it's also like a very different, like, that's not even close to how I want my business to look. I'm good. But that's the beauty of it, is that I have the freedom to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the discernment, I think, to catch that this isn't fitting me. So I need to maybe tweak what they've done, learn from their experience, but tweak it to fit me.
And sometimes that tweak is small. It's not necessarily a huge 180-degree change of difference. I think that's important to note, that, because somebody said, I remember when I first started, we're in a very open office concept, so we could hear what everybody's saying when they're selling on the phone. And that was helpful in the beginning, to be like, ooh, I like that one line that he just said, or I like this, or I like that. And it definitely helped to make you a better salesperson, if you may, or a different way that you're delivering options depending on who's on the other side of that. But in the grand scheme of it, there's no right or wrong way. And I tell this to my people, especially my introverts. They're like, oh, heck no. Like, I could never go work a room or a conference. Like, I've got to really, psych myself up and, put a time limit on it. All of those things are legit, and you should be doing all of those. But also, introverts are some of the best networkers that I know, because they know how to actively listen really, really well. They don't interrupt. They ask questions. They want to know, and they're really good about discernment and listening and being like, that's a yes for me, or that's a no for me, really quickly. And they feed off of people's good energy and vibes. And for somebody that is an extrovert like myself, I'll have them in my corner all day long, because there's some things that they see that I don't, that I'm like, wow, that would have taken me like 5 times to see that. Thank you so much for shining light on that for me. You are great.
Yeah, I love that about you too, Sarah. I mean, like, it's important that you understand that there's extroverts and introverts, and those that are somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you don't come at me with like, yeah, no, you can never be a good networker because you're not made this one way and doing it this one particular way.
I think that's, if I could have one thing that I want my book to really empower people, is exactly that. You yourself, every single person has magic inside of them. Introvert, extrovert, ambivert, however it is that you think you identify as being out there and being able to do things. And there's magic in all of it. But if you're pretending to be somebody else, you're going to initially attract the wrong people, and they're going to drain you even further. And that's going to, another reiteration of why networking feels like it doesn't work, is if you're trying to be an extrovert like me and you are an introvert, it just doesn't match, and it doesn't vibe, and it'll take you 3 years longer to finally realize, man, I do not want to work with any of these people. Like, they are too much for me, and that's okay, right? There's enough of us out there to find your people. So don't try to be somebody else. But also, when I was interviewing a ton of introverts for my book, because I realized when I wrote my book, it was all from my perspective, and I'm like, I never thought I'd have to explain how to actively listen to somebody. And it turns out attorneys, when I gave this talk that I usually give, are the first ones to ask me how to actively listen. And I'm like, hold up, we got to go way back here. How are you doing an intake when you talk to a client? Like, do you have like a sheet? Like, do you ask certain questions? Like, tell me. That very similar to that, you're going to structure your life around that when you're trying to figure out if somebody's a good referral partner or just growing your name out in your community. You're going to ask not the same questions, but similar, like getting to know that person. Why are they calling you? And they were like, oh. And I was like, oh, I've got to go back further and make this even simpler for people. But what I found for introverts, for most of them, not that I'm a doctor, not that this is scientific, I didn't like gather a bunch of data. I interviewed about 50 introverts. All of them had some sort of incident happen in their life, whether it was younger from a teacher, older as an adult, where that somebody told them they weren't good at it, and that story stuck in their head and has been on a loop over and over and over. So they are constantly like, oh, I can't say I can't say like, and I can't if I break eye contact, it looks weird, or I can't do this because somebody along the way told them that that was bad or they shouldn't do that. And that has lived with them. And I was surprised to hear how much it was teachers at a younger age, like junior high, high school. You would never be good at that. And it's like, whoa, that's a pretty bold statement to make about somebody, one, but two, the fact that it has been on repeat in many seasoned professionals' brains for years on end is like, we've got some work to do to kind of get over that and show that, no, you have some amazingness in you. It just may look a lot different than somebody that can go work a room, then go get drinks after, to I've got an hour. I'm going home to the safety of my room. And to make the most of this hour, I am talking to two people, right? Two people to expand my network, two people that could potentially, be a CPA, a bookkeeper. I'm talking to people that would be great for you and me. But, whatever those two people are, you've done it, you've executed, go home, recharge. And you've knocked that event out of the park. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And people, I don't think, give themselves enough credit for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like the way you phrase that and the way you look at it. And it makes me feel better about myself.
As it should, sister, because you are incredible. So you should.
What is the worst advice someone ever gave you, Sarah? Did you ever get some really bad advice and did you take it?
Yes, you have to spend money to make money.
Okay.
And I spent $60,000 and I was absolutely miserable. Now, do not get me wrong. You do have to invest into your business as you go along. I am not saying that that's not the case, but you don't spend when you don't have. That is.
I am a financial advisor and I want that on a plaque somewhere.
Lori's face just had an aha moment for those of us that are not watching this on video one day. It was like, yes. I mean, it goes back to just, yes, I understand, you guys lived on credit cards and you did this and you're able to pull yourself out and markets ebb and flow and when it's up, you can make a lot of money. When it's down, you kind of have to make sacrifices. But I mean, I am just not about spending that much money without trying to figure out another plan or another way to do something that doesn't require thousands of dollars out of your own pocket. Mm-hmm. You don't function, nobody functions as their best self, I believe, when they are drowning in a lot of debt or under some sort of financial pressure. Mm-hmm. Especially in my mortgage business, when I'm talking to people, the most shame or hardest part that I find people have when it comes to talking about credit reports and their debts. Things that maybe happened in the past, things that are going on now, they don't necessarily want to share it. And it's not for judgment. It's for like, okay, well, if this is where we're at, how do we go ahead and fix it? And when you can bring clarity and you can bring resolution, or sometimes credit bureaus are weird and we just need time. There's nothing that you've done all the beautiful things and I need this to continue for another 6 months for us to get X amount of points in your credit score. It's not right or wrong, but that stuff there brings such amazing relief. And when you have a plan and you have clarity with it, there's so much better decision making that happens in your entire professional and personal life. Mm-hmm. So for me, yes, you do have to spend money to make money, but not when you're already drowning in debt, and not to encourage people to continue down that path if it doesn't suit them, right? And that is unfortunately something that I found out quickly doesn't work for me. And still to this day, they're just like, cool, Sarah, we're just going to go over here and send 10,000 more flyers. And I'm like, great, I'm going to go out and attend 2 networking events this week and talk to 5 new people and see if I can either get to know them better, or if they have somebody in their network that is exactly what I'm looking for, then I'll go ahead and do that. And that to me, time is money. I am investing money in myself. I have an hourly rate, but it's not necessarily a rate that I'm putting on a credit card, right? It's more of, hey, I'm taking it out of my schedule to allot 3 hours to attend these 2 events, and that's how I budget my time and my money. But for me, that when I hear that you have to spend money to make money, I'm like nails on a chalkboard. Please preface this with some other words. Don't just say that and mic drop and walk away.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. What about do-overs? Is there a situation you can think of kind of along your journey where you're like, oh my gosh, I know so much more now. I wish I could go back and do it over, and I know exactly how I do it differently. Like, is there a situation or something that you can think of that makes you want to do over?
Yeah, I would say when I first started, originally would make a lot of sense when I talk to people and share that I do residential mortgage financing. So like, oh, so you want to know realtors? And I'm like, originally I was like, yes, I do, because most realtors need a me to finance a transaction. So you would think that goes hand in hand. And don't get me wrong, I have a handful of beautiful referral partners that are real estate agents. But I truly believe if you're looking out for somebody's full financial well-being, there's more than just the real estate and the mortgage aspect. And so I wish I would have not spent so much time in the beginning going and trying to find real estate partners, which was incredibly difficult, incredibly demeaning, degrading, like, oh, you're just a lender, you're just this, you're just that. I got judged on how I looked. I got judged that I was a woman. I got judged that I did mortgages and that I was really super selfish. I wish I was able to see bigger picture in the beginning, that I could have reached out to more financial advisors, to more accountants, to more attorneys, to more people that thought and did business the same way that I did, so that I could have attracted more ideal clients, but also phased out some of those referral partners that I thought were really good because they were doing business, but turns out we couldn't be farther apart of our value systems when we're working with clients.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is what's most important now. But it took me a really long time to see that and understand that. And that to me was like one of those moments that I'd be like, okay, don't spend so much time here. We need some of these, but let's go find some other professionals outside of the box a little bit more that could fuel your business, and get those good people in your pocket and let that cycle go back and forth both ways through there.
Yeah. I think it's really important that, like, just because you find a partner, a mentor, I mean, you can use it with all sorts of different ways of looking at things. Doesn't mean that they're going to be a good fit for you. Like, you need to, I always think, like, this is my reputation I'm putting on the line. So I vet my partners pretty carefully and make sure that we're coming at it from the same place. I want, more than anything, I want my clients' well-being. I want them to be happy, healthy, and wealthy too, but but all the good things, and I won't introduce them to people who are trying to, just make a buck and they don't really care about my clients' lives. Like, these are my people, my friends that I'm referring.
Well, and I think that that's another piece of networking that some people sort of forget, is that when you are making an introduction, or, hey, I know a person, your reputation and trust is on the line. They're hoping that you have vetted this person. They're not just hoping it's because you're in a BNI networking with somebody, which, side note, I am in BNI. Okay. So I'm not knocking, if for those of you that don't know what BNI is, it's Business Networking International. Industry specific seats. You are required to pass X amount of leads per month. And so a lot of times it gets a little clicky and people tend to use only the people in that group. But you don't always know that those people in their group are a 10 out of 10 for you. And so it's really, really important for me when I'm out there learning and building trust with professionals. You have to know, it's important to share a little bit about yourself as a human, who you are outside of what you do, but mostly how you operate when you're, your integrity, your honesty, all of that stuff. Because when I go, hey, Lorie, I'm going to introduce you to my client. They just closed on their second investment property. I think some financial advising would be really great for them from now on. I'm doing it because the personalities match, their wealth matches to be able to take on a financial advisor, but also because I've vetted you. I know that you're fantastic, and I know that you would be a great fit for them. If I made that extra introduction and Lorie didn't pick up the phone, she never returned, she canceled on them twice, she didn't do any of those trust building things early on, and they came back to me and said, hey, Sarah, she's blown us off twice.
Terrible.
And, Using Lorie as
Yeah.
an example, because we're looking at
Yeah.
each other. This is not Lorie to a T by any fashion.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that breaks trust, and why
Yeah.
people get so frustrated at networking is because, hey, you're not realizing that I put my name and my reputation out on the line, and you've kind of crapped on both of us, not only yourself, but also a little bit on me and my trustworthy
Yeah.
factorness of somebody coming to me and asking, even if it's a windshield guy, I chipped my windshield, Sarah, I need somebody to come and replace
Yeah.
it, right? It's all the things. It's not just these big financial components, which Lorie and I help on. It's all the little things. I have my friends call me for all the things. I have a flat tire. I need a cleaning lady. I need this. I need that. If I
Yeah.
don't have one that I am actually working with or trusting at the moment, I just say that, and they honor that, and they'll keep their search going. But
Mhm.
all of those things are so important in building us a trust and reputation for yourself as you go.
Mhm. So, Sarah, if you could go back and high five yourself for one really great financial decision in the past, what would it be?
One really great financial decision. Can't remember how I answered this question, but if I have to go off the top of my head here, I would say one of the biggest things that I did when I was paying myself off from all of that debt is I did borrow some money from my mom and my husband. My now husband, he was my fiance at the time. And I paid both of them back in whole like a year later. And that to me was like, thank you for believing me. Thank you for having that trust. Heck
Mhm.
yes, Sarah, you did this, and you have the full capability of being a badass and making money in whatever it is that I happen to be doing. That happened to be COVID time, so I was making buckets of money in the mortgage refinance world because the rates were ridiculously low.
Oh,
But
yeah.
regardless, even if it wasn't that time, I was still driving, working, learning this other aspect of myself was outside of just mortgages, was this networking piece that was a huge magical piece of my business that is now leading to speaking, books, all of these other pieces to empower people to feel good about what they're doing in their business.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I like that. And I like that it sounds like it wasn't just the financial piece of that. It was the fact that they believed in you enough to, yeah, I
Very
like
much.
that.
I mean, my mom is my mom, and she'll
Yeah.
always have the belief in me. She used to tell me all the time, "You have such magic, you have it." And I was like, "You're just saying this because you're my mom." Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, fine. But to also have my now husband, believe that, I could work hard and I can do this. And yes, here's $10,000 to kind of get us on the other side of this before we were even legally married or anything like that was huge. To have the belief of the people that are surrounding you constantly, that helps tremendously.
Sarah, what scared you the most when you started this journey on your career? Was there anything that was like worrisome, and does it still scare you today, or did you learn how to deal with it?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this question in twofold, if that's okay. So, scariness in regards to mortgages, and I can talk to it today about public speaking and like applying for speaking gigs and different things like that. So, I think as an athlete, we're taught that failure is always a learning curve, push harder, go, 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 train harder. And I think in regards to the mortgage piece of it, I took a lot of that training to heart and did that and burned out a lot. I'll go to more events. I've got the time. I've got this. I've got that. Go, go, go. Just, keep going out there, keep hustling, keep grinding. And there was almost this correlation of the harder I worked, the badge of honor, with success came along with it. And even to this day, as a 41-year-old female, I still struggle sometimes with my calendar when I'm like things are slower. I will like make my calendar like just be like, I've got to be full, I've got to go, I've got to go, I've got to grind, I've got to hustle. But let me tell you, that is absolutely not the time to be doing that. A little grace and a little quiet time to be is way more beneficial for your head, your heart, personally and professionally. So
Mhm.
that was something that I really struggled with a lot with the mortgage piece of it. There's something about being in two very crowded spaces that I'm kind of dabbling in right now in the mortgage space. And I had no idea how crowded the public speaking space was. There's a ton of public speakers out there. So I'm kind of transferring one career, if we may, into another career of crowdedness. What I've noticed though is when I'm applying to these speaking engagements, they're not necessarily getting to see me, they're just reading me on paper. And I'm much better face to face than I am writing. That's just me. I would rather video, I'd rather record myself, I'd rather do all of those things. So I've had to find a way to integrate that when I'm applying to these things, so I can stand out a little bit. But I still have this fear of like failing because I'm not good enough in how I wrote it, right? I wasn't good enough to send mailers, but then I found the resolution. That story went on in my head for a really long time. I'm not producing as much. That means I got to go harder. Not quite. Just have to be a little bit more intentional with your time. And then with the speaking piece of it, they're all crowded spaces, but they're not a you or a me, right? They're not going to deliver that peace, that knowledge, or that person sitting in the crowd isn't going to hear it the same way that it comes from you or me as they would maybe from a Gary Vee or all these other gentlemen out there that are getting paid $50,000 a keynote, right? So that is kind of something I still struggle with, is like that some of that worthiness that Jamie Kern-Lima talks about in her book a little bit, of feeling worthy, feeling like you have a space on the stage as well, whether it's mortgages, speaking, whatever it is, but you do, and you just have to kind of keep pushing through it a little bit and finding unique ways to make it where it still sounds like you, right? My application is not going to be the same as everybody else's. Mine's going to have a video. Mine's going to have an updated speaker sheet at the bottom because it's got pictures of me and my real life in it instead of these perfect polished things, headshots, which again is important to have, but it's going to make them see the real me, or at least that's what my intention is while I'm out there trying to do this.
I was just listening to, I think it was you that recommended the marketing and the things that they see in marketing this year, and that was
marketing trends.
Is authenticity, like being real. There's so much AI out there. There's so much, you can be polished and look wonderful and everything, no problems, everything like that. But part of who you are is being real. Like saying, you know what, I have rough days. Some days there are, my hair is not always in place all the time. The just sort of being authentic, being real.
Yeah, one of the other people I listened to on one of their market updates, they were like, we're no longer in this like one thing, this has to be the same thing all the time, right? We're both moms, you and I, we cook, we do a lot of different things. And so if you can show that in your real life and then bring it back to what your end goal is, which for me is networking, empowering people, giving them systems, telling them how to use AI in really intentional ways, helping them getting a mortgage. If you can somehow interweave that into what your real life activity is, that's going to build the bridge faster than mortgage, networking, financial advising, which again still has to be interwoven into there, but you need to let the part about you shine through, and however that is. It's not right or wrong, but that's where I have felt like I've struggled, is if you read me on paper, it can be impressive, but I struggle writing in general. So it's not going to sound exactly like me. So I've got to find a way to not be so do like everybody else.
Yeah. Just be unique, not be the same.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting. Sarah, did you face any unique challenges because you were a woman through your journey?
Yes, I can tell you very early on when I went into the networking world, I started at a chamber of commerce locally here in the area. I had a low budget and a lot of time. So that fit really, really well in regards to I could go to as many events as I wanted. Cost me $450 for the year. It was like, yes, I can do this. And I remember before I was deciding to join, I had asked for a few people to talk to just hear about their experience in the chamber to see if it was a good fit. And I remember calling a couple real estate agents' names that were given to me and a couple other non-real estate agents. They were all different types of business owners. Those other business owners called me back immediately, had coffee with me, no problem. One particular real estate agent didn't take my call until after I joined. Weeks later, we met for coffee, and she basically told me that I look really young, I'm a woman, and that I am in a field where there's a lot of people that just don't trust me because people just take. So I've got a really long journey ahead of me, and that I should start following all these other really successful loan officers in order to have success in what I'm going to do, because it's going to take me a really long time to have success in this chamber with what I do. And I was like, whoa. And I think if I have to go back, because I still know her to this day, if I have to go back and hear what she was probably trying to say, I think she was trying to help and protect a little bit, not necessarily degrade. But there's so many ways on the delivery, and I left that meeting going, what am I doing? How can anybody make so many early judgments? And she prefaced it that she only took my call because she gets blown up by lenders every day, and she wouldn't take my call until I actually became a member of the Chamber of Commerce, which was fine. That's okay. But I'm like, whoa, like you're filtering out people about who they are and what they do professionally and based off of their engagement in a networking group. To me, that seems really short-sighted. To this day, it feels very short-sighted. But that's where she was. That's the conversation that we had. And I just remember going, what am I doing? And there's a handful of people in that chamber. That chamber is not really in existence anymore. But there was a good 20 of people that had been in that chamber for a really long time. And all of them had that same stigma. She looks really young. She does mortgages. And it took me years. I remember being at an event and one of them was like, okay, I'm finally ready to hear about you and what you do. And you're like, my God, I've been sending you insurance business for over 2 years and now you just want to know who I am? Like, maybe I was and very quickly that insurance business went somewhere else because I was like, wow, that was just so ingenuine. But there's a lot of people out there that still function that way. They make assumptions based off of how you look and how long you've been in an industry and how experienced you are. I encourage people to not do that. You're missing out on a lot of greatness that are people if you do that.
Yeah, I think so. That's so interesting. Sarah, what is the thing you are most proud of?
My book that I just wrote. So I am dyslexic. I didn't get diagnosed until I was in college. So I made it through high school with really great grades, made it through most of college with really great grades, but school was a struggle for me. And I remember a professor in a leadership class pulled me aside and she's like, you bombed this test. And I know that you know this stuff. She's like, I want you to do the test verbally with me. And I did it. And she was like, you need to go get tested. I think you're dyslexic. And I was like, there's no way. She's like, seriously, I was the same way. I think you should go get tested. So she encouraged me to go do it. Turns out I was. And I had a slight hurdle of taking stuff from short-term to long-term memory. Me reading something, it doesn't go like a regular person. I need to listen to it. When I read and listen, it goes into my head. So like I could recite songs, like lyrics. I know them like going out of style because I listened to it. It sunk in. It's how it went. So I learned very early on that that's what I did, but writing is still a struggle for me. I've said this earlier. And when people are like, you have a book, you have a book, you have a book. And I'm like, no way. The thought of sitting in front of a white page and typing out like 100+ pages on any topic, that like, it doesn't matter how passionate I am about it. I was like, oh God, no, that sounds horrific.
Yeah.
But they were not wrong. And so I ended up voicing most of my book. So I voiced the text in my book and then I would go through and add it. And it took me about a year of like getting it out, kind of having some people interview style and do different things. But I would say at this moment that is what I am most proud of for sitting down and sticking with it. If I didn't have I self-published my book. So I did have a coach that kind of helped me along the way to keep me on track. And when I needed to find out where I was struggling, she would jump on the phone with me and help me out. It definitely wouldn't have happened if I didn't have her in my corner, I'll tell you that. But with that, it just shows that I think that we can do really hard things, even when it is not the exact way where most people do it. That there's a lot of unique ways now with AI and different tools that we have where we can pull some really great, incredible stuff out of people. And it doesn't have to be the traditional sit and write chapter 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could be, you could write chapter 12 before you're actually getting to chapter 1. or you could voice it, or you could do whatever. And it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, I love that. There is something to be said for thinking outside the box and kind of thinking around like, this isn't working. And rather than bashing at it, going, well, this sounds like a nightmare. What's one way I can make it better? How could I do this thing that I really want to do and I really feel like I need to do, and do it in a way that makes sense for me? I think that's so great.
Yeah.
Sarah, any advice for a young lady who's kind of just starting down this path? And I don't know whether you want to take it the real estate path or the speaker path or the writer path. Like, you've done so many things. Like you said, you have so many titles. Like, but is there any advice you would give to a young lady who is following in your footsteps?
It doesn't matter which field you're going into, you have to go back to establishing those values of who you are professionally and personally first and foremost. They will try to get swayed very easily by many, many other people. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, Lorie, and I think the one that stands out the most is where the person that was like, I'm shitting all over you. People are going to share that with you, whether you want to hear it or not. And some of that advice could be really great. Most of it is one person's closed-minded perspective. And so you have to have your values and be able to get quiet enough to follow your intuition. You guys can't see it, but my hand is on my belly right now. We as women have incredibly strong intuition and gut tendencies, but we tend to let our little brains and our egos get in the way. It's very difficult. I will struggle with it even to this day, but our guts innately as women is incredibly powerful. And so if you can get quiet enough, stay aligned with who you are, and follow those little nudges and bumps that your intuition gives you, you will go far beyond what you even think is capable.
Yeah, I love that thought. And it is true. Like, as women, a lot of times we are kind of connected with whatever universe helps us to kind of, move forward in a way that makes sense to us. And it's hard. It's hard because the data says don't trust your gut, but
yes,
we actually should be trusting our gut.
Well, and I think that there's definitely a shift happening right now in regards to that information, where there's still some, I'm going to call it old school ways of, this is what worked, it's tried and true, there's books written on it, and this is what's worked for many professionals. A lot of those professionals are men, first and foremost. And it's not saying that they can't work. It just may not be what works best for a female. And so somebody that's young and driven and wants to go have success in whatever defines success for them, they have to be able to get quiet enough to follow that intuition. That will lead you to beautiful places, groups, people, whatever it is that will give you that success along your journey.
Oh, I love that. That really is such a good thought. I'm going to think on that a little while, because I love that idea of just being in touch with your intuition, and that maybe the way that they didn't do medical research on women for a lot of years, and drugs don't affect us the same way they do men.
Oh, no.
Perhaps there should be a little bit more research in this area as well, on women specifically. That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's just, and I've met a lot of gentlemen that have really strong intuition as well. So it's not just in women, but women innately have it a little bit better and a little stronger. So the key is just getting quiet enough to be able to hear it, because it's not loud. I've bypassed it multiple times where I'm like, I've got this. I'm sending the flyers. I'm doing the things, and I'm writing this, or the website of this speaker that looks really great. Mine's going to look exactly the same. And you're like, no, this sucks. And I'm not enjoying it either, which is really, really painful. It's not what we want for anybody. You want to enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for taking the time today to just chat with me and share your story and share your journey and share your experience. I really appreciate it. If I have a young lady who wants to get in touch with you and ask questions or pick your brain, how does she do that?
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn at Sarah Hubbard. Also on Instagram at Sarah Ann Flann, Flann. My maiden name is Flannery, and I can't part ways with it, so I still interweave it into certain things. Also, I have a website, sarah-hubbard.com. You can jump on my inner community email list to get networking tips and tricks there, and also just reach out and connect on there as well.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.